Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Emerald the Quilter, and I have been making all of the quilts from the Perfect 5 Quilts book by It's So Emma. In this video, I'm going to show you how to take all of your cutaways. Hopefully you made them into half square triangles just like this. I did make all of my half square triangles, and hopefully I didn't lose any. And I'm going to show you how to make a bonus project with them. And you're going to want to stay tuned because the next video that I come out with, we are going to be making the Pizzelle quilt. And I have been looking forward to making this quilt for the longest time because I have scrappy plans for this quilt. Now, let's take a look at all of these little half square triangles. So here's my huge pile of half square triangles. I did not shape them into a heart on purpose. They were just kind of stacked that way, but I did make it extra pretty just for you. And I did save all of my cutaways to make half square triangles. So I'm sure I could figure out the math on these, being that there were 36 blocks with, and in a pinwheel it's 4 blocks, so 36 times 4, whatever that is. That's how many that should be in here if I am thinking about it correctly. And so I'm going to start by just separating my fabric colors, not by specific print, but by overall color. So I want to get like my purples together and I want to get my lights together. And in the spirit of pinwheels, I am going to make a mini pinwheel block. So this quilt is going to just be, it's not going to be necessarily a table runner or a pillowcase. I mean, maybe it turns out that way, but I'm not going to do it on purpose. These should finish at 1 1/4, so they're going to be really small. And once I figure out, you know, is this going to be a true square, or is this going to be like a rectangle of some sort, then I'll be able to figure out more or less what the final measurement is going to be. And I'm kind of torn on like, where should this light purple go? It's not purple enough to go here, and it's not light enough to go here because it's more purpley. So maybe it just gets its own little category. And I know for a fact that I do not want all of my pinwheels to be all of the same fabric. I want them to be, you know, same colors but different fabrics within a pinwheel, just to make it more fun. So I've kind of got like my floral, large floral lights here, and my ultra lights right there, some more light browns and the dark browns here. I think I've got a good thing going. And I'm sure once I start actually laying it all out, it will need some modifying and playing around with. So and I know I definitely need to keep an eye out for these reds, because I think there's only like 2 major reds in here. I may have to like consider, you know, is this going to be okay to join with the red group? I'm not sure. I'm going to have to keep that in mind as I continue. The goal is to like balance your colors out. So that's why I say, you know, I may change things around. Why did I do that? That's just one large brown stack. Here we go. This one needs a little bit more pressing. I'm going to set that off to the side. Don't want it to cause any issues. Lights, purples, more purple, more purple. Definitely with the ultralights right there. And there are so many ways that you can lay out your half square triangles, but I knew that I wanted to make little pinwheels because like the quilt that these pieces came from was a pinwheel block. And the last time I just used my cutaways to make like all of them facing the same way. And that ended up being a super cute table runner, but I want to do something different every time that I have fabric to make bonus projects, just to keep it fun and interesting. And I'm about halfway done now. And I'm gonna use my little board right here to just start laying them out. And I know that they'll be much easier to sew once I have them stacked in like the way that I want them to be sewn. So I'm not gonna lay them all out like you've seen me do in the past, because I think this time I have way more, so it might not even fit. But it'll just make sewing these pieces together more practical, each unit into a block, and then ultimately the blocks into a quilt. So that just makes it simple. Anything I can do to simplify the process, I try to do. And spread these out a little bit more because these are just growing and growing. And here's another deep red flower right there. Very nice. So yeah, I think I like that deep red right there. And then even though there's like some half square triangles with that same print in, it just happens to be where the cut of that print does not showcase the red flower, so it's going with like the normal dark brown section, at least for now. It'd be really cool if I could make like 2 pillowcases out of this. One would be nice too, but a pair is always nicer. See, like this one only has half of that red flower, so I'm not going to put it in here. That just doesn't make sense. But this has the whole red flower in it, so that's going in the same pile. Right there. And I can't believe there was only one type of red print. Like I could have sworn that there was red in this print, but also in this sort of washed print, but I'm not seeing any. So I am for sure gonna have to mix the red with other things. We don't want like a few random plain Jane pinwheels in the quilt. And if you're wondering if I took the time to square these up, I did not. And if you look on the back, they're all facing towards the printed fabric, all of them. If I was in a position that I didn't know what I was going to do with these, I would have pressed them open. And now I'm thinking that this super light washed fabric needs to go with these, because I don't want just like one type of print with those. They'll be much prettier together. If I also include the brown of like the traced, almost as if it was done with like pencil or pen, just to add some more variation, it'd be really pretty. So I'm gonna pull those out before I continue. It's always okay to change your mind with things. Okay, so that pile's a little bit smaller now. More purples, dark brown section, some medium-sized florals. And I'm almost done, guys, almost done. If you wanted to separate by actual print and color, this would take even longer to do. And that would be like something you may want to consider as you're going along. Do I want these sorted a certain way as you're making them? And then keep them piled up that way so that you don't have to do this in the end. Maybe the plaid will have to go there too. I think so. Or this is really pretty. No, that's too light. Yeah, let me see if there's some plaids. I know I put a few. There's some. Here's another one. Just gotta get those out before I forget. And these are the last of them right here. Yay, almost done. Okay, and then really, like, would it be such a bad idea if these went in here? I don't think so. So now I am going to pull these dark ones out. Probably put them in that pile. So that pile has some variation to it. Okay, so I've condensed. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 piles of fabrics, purples. light browns with like florals. These are the ultra light fabrics, some medium browns, dark browns, and then my awkward stack of reds, plaid, and dark browns with red flowers on them. I'm gonna start off with my purples because they're pretty and bright. And to make your pinwheel, you just want to figure out which way is it going to face, which direction I mean. So I have like, how many purples in here? 3 kinds of purples. Like that. And these are rotating towards the right, or if I turn them this way, they are rotating towards the left. So you pick and choose which one you like. I'm just gonna go this way towards the right, and I'm going to try to figure out, you know, which ones are gonna go where, because at some point I am going to need more of one kind or another because I'm gonna run out. So what I mean by that is if I only have 3 types of fabrics, right? There are 4 units in each pinwheel. So I'm repeating one of those fabrics twice. So as I make them, I have to make sure, okay, I have the medium washed purple twice. Now I have the purple little flowers twice. I can't repeat the purple little flowers over and over and over because then I won't have any for the single, like in this block, later on in my pinwheel blocks. So I have to keep that in mind as I'm going and make sure that I alternate them. They need to take turns. Like sometimes the dark purple is going to have to repeat. And then I would keep them opposite from one another, so that every block is just a tad bit different and I'm not running out of my fabrics. So that's what those are gonna look like. Let me put these aside. And now let me bring out these reds, because I know the reds, I really want to see what they're going to look like. And I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have to repeat the plain red twice in just about every single one. What do you think? I don't think that looks good. This plaid is just really throwing it off. That means I need a 3-to-1 ratio. So here is where planning and not just mindless sewing is really important. So I have a 3-to-1 ratio. Let me see. There is 3. Am I going to have enough? 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I'm just going to stack them on top. Here is 3, right? Here is another 3. Here is another 3. Here is another 3. And then I have 1 random one. Now I also have 1 random one of these. But this doesn't have a huge red flower like the others, so really this could just go into my brown pile. And then I wait and see what happens to this one single red here. The other thing I could do is look to see where there are more red or pink prints. For example, in this particular print, although it's very light, there are some red flowers in there, or like kind of pinky orange flowers, but does it look good? No, it doesn't look good. So I'm kind of stuck with the 3-to-1 ratio that I have here. So there we go. And then this one is just going to go off to the side until I can figure out what I'm going to do with those. And then with this, pile here, I can literally just stack them on top of one another because they're exactly the same block. Exactly the same. And it's important to organize your units because if you're like me, where you are not quilting for several hours consecutively, you're going to forget. Most of the time, I'm quilting after hours, so I've already put my son to sleep. Usually from like 8 to 10 is my time to myself. And I can't even do that every night. So I need to keep it organized in a way that no matter what day I come back to sew, I can pick up and immediately know where I am. So now let me look at these. Let's do the florals. Here are my florals. They're like the light florals. And I kind of want to see, okay, so I have these washed light browns and then these browns with the itty bitty little flowers on them. I know with these, I can separate these browns and then mix and match these flowers. And so these large floral prints have like some with pink and some with purple. So I definitely want to mix and match those. And you can just barely tell, but still I want that variation. So this has a little bit of pink and this has a little bit of purple. I know it's kind of hard to see, but I can definitely tell. And now I just want to add all of these on top of here the way that I stack them on here. So this is the pink one, purple, washed brown, purple, and then look, this is that like traced sort of flower look that I needed to go in that pile over there. And am I even going to have enough? It does not look like it because I am missing, and they might be in like the other brown pile that I have. They might be there. I'm gonna have to search for them. Oh, and that was a purple. That purple guy needs to go here. And then this pink can go here. Purple. Pink. Pink. And purple. All right, so I'm definitely missing these fabrics and they must be in this pile. So I'm gonna search for them. Here we go. I knew I had them somewhere. And don't worry, I'm still gonna have enough variation in this pile to get me some pretty pinwheels. And what I am gonna have to do, and there's one random dark brown, is make sure that like I count this pile and that pile to make sure that they're more or less equal. And then in the end, if I have lots of single random units, I can pull those units and make like 1 or 2 scrappy pinwheel blocks. Oh, and this one is ultra light. So this one has to move to my other pile. And I may have too many. I need to count. I really need to count. There's that dark brown again. They got in the wrong pile. Okay, so these can go off to the side. And then let's see, I have, these two should be the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, hopefully I counted that right. So let's just say 17 or 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so I have enough to make pinwheels, and this looks to be about the same height right here. And they're rotating right towards me. So these are rotating right, these are rotating right, and these are rotating right. Now, I am going to finish putting these into pinwheels, my stack of lights into pinwheels, the rest of my purples, and my dark browns. But because I could spend like an hour doing this, I don't think you would want to watch like a 3 or 4 hour video of me making this project start to finish. I'm going to stop the video here and finish it and then come back when I'm all ready. I finished laying out all of my units, so I have my light browns here. These are going to be 8 of the same blocks with the florals repeated and the light little brown flowers repeated twice. I have 2 of these blocks, 2 of the medium dark florals repeated, and 1 super dark brown and 1 washed brown. And then I have different lights. So on these lights, I have the traced brown with the traced pink, traced purple with the traced brown, the traced purple with the traced pink, and then this block here is going to be 2 of the light florals and then 2 of the very light washed. So I've accounted for all of my fabrics to make sure that even though it's going to be somewhat scrappy, everything is in here and it's somewhat organized. Then I did finish laying out the rest of my dark browns. So here they are. You got to see already like the red and the medium brown, but there's going to be 4 of each of these, and you can see here that in here there's just 1 of each. Here's also 1 of each, but the difference being the small floral print and the large floral print. And then here is literally 1 of every dark brown print. And then I only had just 1 to make this block here, so double of that small brown print, 1 washed and 1 very dark brown. And of course, I knew I was going to have something left over. I just did not know what it was going to be. These are the leftover pieces. So I will probably make 1 scrappy block, but I want to make sure that I have like enough pinwheels that's going to give me a square or a rectangle of some sort before I sew these together, because as I'm going along I may change my mind. But now I am ready to take these to the sewing machine, so I'm going to get set up and we'll get started. I have so many blocks that I'm going to be making, even though they're technically all the same, they're just pinwheel blocks. I needed to keep them organized and laid them out as they are right next to my sewing machine, so that when I get to the point that I can pin them together, I can place them right back where they go. And this is going to help me not make any mistakes. I took a picture to help me remember what's on my first mat. I'm going to be working on these here on the gray so that I can set them aside and then work on the next tray of blocks. And I'm just sewing them as they are. I am locking my seams together. And some of these are going to be different sizes because I never trimmed them up. But as I make the entire pinwheel block, and I have many of them, I'm going to be at a better place to choose whether or not I'm going to trim some of them or all of them. And I actually don't know how many pinwheel blocks I'm going to end up making here. I may end up having too many, or depending on what I decide to put them into, I may not even have enough and we'll have to change plans. So I'm going to make all that I can, and I'm going to remember that I have these leftovers. And if I have to make a scrappy pinwheel block, I have that one to work with. And I anticipate this taking a long time because there is so many. So I'm just going to do as many as I can and press them open. I think this is going to take a long time because there are so many, and I know I could finish it in a day if I had all day. So I'm going to share with you in the end about how long in total it takes for me to complete this bonus project. And there's so many other designs out there to use with half square triangles. In fact, if you love the pinwheel, you could put a solid square in between each pinwheel and then alternate them like a checkerboard. That'd be really cute too. So you have a lot of options to choose from if this is not what you want to do. And let me show you what I mean by these blocks not being the same size, or I should say these units. If you look at them closely, you can see that the one with the flowers is slightly bigger. When I close it and I lock those seams, I can feel them squish together right here just right. And I can see how when I press them, it helps to get this corner aligned. And then when I look over here, I can see that there has some pull to it and it doesn't quite fill up the entire space. When I look on this side, I can see it's not long enough at all. So try not to worry too much because you may think, oh, one piece is bigger than the other. But then once you sew them together, it may work out, and then some might need a little bit of assistance. And I'm going to open them back up and then just make sure, like this one for sure, you know, you can see that's much longer. And when I press it together, see how that floral one is sticking out, and that's after shimming it together right there. You can see it. So try not to worry too much. Let's get what we can done and then we'll figure out the rest. Now let's just get these out so that we can see what they look like. So I'm taking these off so I can see how I'm doing so far, because you don't ever want to do like everything that you have, sewing it all together, and then realize you have a mistake. You can see that my points match up really nicely here. And when I look at, so this is the bottom piece, right? When I look at the other half, the top half, which is this one here, my point should also match, and it does. And I want to press my seams open because I want to have the liberty of putting my blocks wherever it is that they're going to go, and I want them to also just lay flat. If I decide that I want to end up putting something in between these blocks, it's just going to be more helpful for me in the end. And you can see here I'm matching them up like this. I'm going to place a pin, and I didn't even take it to the iron. I just finger pressed, grabbing a pin, and I'm sticking it right to the left of my seam like this. Now let me sew just one to see how it's going to come out. And when I sew, I can see, and I know that you can see too, here this pink sticking out underneath and this white sticking out underneath, right? But what's most important is that this edge lines up with both. So the top fabric and the bottom fabric need to line up. This side, they're not lining up. So I need to scoot this over as I sew and make sure that it's going to come out like this. Now this edge is more straight. It has a little bit of pull, but once it's all sewn together in the quilt top and it's kind of wanting to just go back to normal, it's going to even the pressure out. So let's see how this one turns out. I'm just fixing that one, and I can see where my point is, and I'm trying to just make sure that my needle hits right underneath that point and not on or over it. And let me show you what I mean by that. Get another leader here, or an ender in this case. My thread is, you see this triangle, is right below that. So it's not going to eat the point of my block. When I open this, you can see I have all 4 points present. If I had sewn on it, then I could have lost my points and it would have looked something more like that. So it's important that you watch your needle as you sew, and I'm going to make the rest of these. I don't think you want to watch me make all of them. So I'm going to pause the camera and then we'll come back when I'm all done. I finished all of my blocks on my gray mat and I wanted to show them to you up close. Most of them came out beautifully. You can see that this one, the points are just a tad bit off, but I'm very happy with them. They're very pretty. The peach is going to be, of course, predominant in this quilt or little pillowcase or whatever it is I decide to turn it into, but not nearly as much as the original Pinwheel Cookie Quilt. So I'm excited to see how this looks in the end. I know that the darker shades of purple and the few cherry red blocks are going to make a big difference in this little quilt top, but I'm about a third done, and they're very pretty. This one we're going to have to do something about. You see that? It is just sticking out so much right there. So I'm gonna remember to mention and talk about this when I get there. But these are just more of the same. And then there's like, I don't know, 6 or 8 of these. But yeah, I'm about a third of the way done, and I can set this off to the side, and now I can work on these. I'm just gonna start with these little purples that are closest to me, and I'm following the same technique. I'm matching the points that intersect together so that I have less gaps at that intersection. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. So you'll see that by the end, you'll have a lot more of those more perfect blocks, and, you know, or not, but you just have to keep on practicing, and anytime you practice with intention, you eventually get better at it. So keep that in mind. I hope you guys are off to a great new year. I know I am. I have been spending a lot of time with my family. So my parents and my sister-in-law and my 5 nieces and nephews that are, you know, belong to my sister-in-law and my brother, they were here for a week. And we had so much fun. We did something just about every single day. And my son absolutely adored his cousins, adored them. He was happy to have the sleepovers. He was happy when they came over. I got to see just a new part of him that I've never seen before. Being in a group of lots of kids and playing and going crazy. And so after they left, my mom stayed behind and we spent more time together. Some of the things that we did was visiting family, and we actually got to finish working on my brother's surprise quilt. So we finished the entire quilt top. That was the American flag quilt from the Scrappiness is Happiness book by Lori Holt, and it's a huge quilt. It's something like 92 by 72 inches or 95 by 75. It's something like that. It is a very big quilt. And my brother's a very big guy, so he's over 6 feet tall, and this quilt is going to be enough for him to like tuck his feet under. And so really happy. We went to Joann's and we picked out the nicest backing. It's a minky back, and it's a blue because his favorite color is blue. So we just can't wait to give that to him when he returns in April from being overseas. So he's been gone a long time, and we had a lot of fun doing that. Something else that we did together was we worked on my grandma's quilt. So we were not able to finish any blocks in its entirety, but we did get a lot of partial blocks done, like maybe 6 of them. And so that one is way more tedious because there's a lot more pieces to those blocks than the American flag quilt that we did, but we're hoping that we can get it done by Mother's Day. So the next time that she visits, we'll take it out and work on it again, unless, you know, something happens and I just end up having to finish it on my own. That'll be okay, but so far it's just been nice having family projects to work on. And I'll share some pictures of my family here at the end of the video for you to see. Now I'm going to finish sewing these like I did the others, and I'll pin them and of course press them out for you, and we'll take a close look at all of these and then go into the fun part, which is design and layout. Okay, I'm back. I know for you that was like a split second, but for me it was like 10 minutes. So I decided to do, I don't know what it's called, but I have seen quilts where in the center it's one set of colors, and then in the middle it's another set of colors, and then outside it kind of just blends, because I have what I think is like just enough reds, and I've determined that if I keep it a square, I can take these 4 out, and then I can mix and match these reds here. So like I said, I don't really know like what this is gonna turn out to be, but I do know it's gonna be beautiful. Okay, so now I'm going to take, so it kind of makes its own brown pinwheel right in here, and then maybe I want to do this. That looks really good. That looks really good to me. And then I will take maybe this random red one out, and then let me see how many browns I have. I wonder if I have enough to go around here or around here. So let's just start mixing them, placing them, and then I will rotate them. And I found the perfect size pillow form, so I don't have to make anything, which is a plus, because that was kind of my concern. And it is, I think, like 17 inches, so it's going to be just enough. Take this one over here, and then this one, and then it looks like I could use one more purple. Oh look, what do you know, I have a purple right there. But that is kind of really blendy, like not blendy, I mean like too much. What I mean to say is that I need to blend it out more. So some of these have purples in them. And this is just the method that I use when I'm working with like leftovers or scraps. I just play with my fabrics until I come across something that I really like. And to me, this works out pretty well because it's kind of like coloring, right? You just get to play and experiment until something really catches your attention. Okay, this one. And this is a bonus project, so you don't have to make it as complicated as I am, but I'm just having fun with it. And I'm just showing you, what I would be doing anyways. So it looks like I need 4 here, 4 here, 4 here, and 4 here. And I don't have enough. So what if I just do like 3, 3, 3, 3? But then that's kind of like a little sad. Isn't it a little sad? Or maybe if I make it more unison by doing it more like a pattern. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. And then I have these other dark ones right there. And maybe I don't put those dark ones because it looks like I don't have enough dark ones. Oh, yes I do. Here's one. Okay, so my inside square, my second outer square, and my third outer square look good except for these corners here. So now I'm just going to look for these mediums because they have some of that purple in there. And I'm just going to place those here, just like so. And I'm looking for ones that have more purple. So this is like purple on one side, but not on this side. And this one has more white. And so it kind of looks like now I've run out. I think the best thing for me to do is use whichever one has the most purple, which is this one. So that one's going to go there. And now in the outside, I can just mix and match these lighter ones with the medium ones. So I'm just going to do alternating and then see where that leads me. Just like so. Some medium, light, 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 medium. Oh my goodness, and I had just the right amount, and it looks kind of weird from your angle, but let me get out my phone and take a quick recording of this. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to start like flipping them until I get them just the way I want them. Okay guys, here is a bird's eye view. It looks so much better after I flipped everything. It looks really cool. It's interesting. It's like, I don't know, conversation piece. But I love this layout, and so this is what I'm gonna do. All that's left for me to do is start taking these as they are and placing them on top of each other in the order that I'm going to sew them. So I know I'm going to be sewing on this side, which means that I want to keep my top row in a column and making sure that I don't accidentally change the direction. And then I'm going to start the next row. And I did, if you're wondering, take a picture because it's a lot of blocks and I could easily get lost, especially with how many nights this has been taking me. And it might be dangerous to put all of them on here. I think I'll do half of this little quilt top at a time and then come back to show you the progress that I've made. All I'm going to do is sew them together into rows, and of course I still need to show you how to consider what to do when you have too much fabric, because as you can see I just decided right now not to do any trimming, and that can be you know, it's a little daunting for some people, but it's doable, I promise. I'll show you how. Before we begin sewing, we need to pin all of these blocks together. And the way that we do that when we are not trimming is to match the corners here and here, and also make sure that your edges are straight. You can see that both of these stick out right here, but also the corners match exactly. So when I sew, I'm going to continue my 1/4 inch seam, ignore this half that's sticking out, pretend that it is not sticking out, and it'll taper off in the end. So I'm going to add my pin at my intersection. And since my seams are all pressed open, it's going to sew nice and easily. I'm just checking to see that everything looks good. I'm going to flip this over because as I feed this to my machine, I want to start on the side that has the least amount of fabric. So I'm going to start here and continue as if there was nothing wrong. And that's how I get the extra fabric in my seam. Now, of course, if you're not careful and you're not watching what you do, you can mess up. So if you're willing to try something new, or if you're feeling pretty confident, you know, give it a shot with maybe just a few. I promise it's not too bad. And so what's unique about this one is that on the top fabric, there isn't enough. And then on the back, there isn't enough either. So stick with one. Don't, you know, start a little bit closer to the edge here and then move backwards here. Just move and stay consistent with whichever fabric, the top or the bottom, you decide to use as your guide for your 1/4 inch seam. And this one, miraculously, is like 100% perfect. So I pinned those, and then I could put them back in the order that they were. And I'm going to do the same for all of these now. I finished pinning and I placed them where they were originally. So before I begin, I wanted to give you one more tip. Because your corners can lock, don't forget to move your pointy finger and your thumb side to side until you feel that the fabric that sticks out just a little bit, like it's a little bit higher, and the one on the other side bump into one another. The same thing on this side. You want them to just stop. So feel it until they fit just right. There goes, like a puzzle. And you hold on to that as you're sewing so that you don't lose your points. And with each pair of units, I'm going to grab and nest those corners before I place it under my foot. And then when I'm about halfway, I'm going to nest the seams on the corner closest to me. Let me do one more so that I have enough room to show you. Pull it out just a little bit so we can see how good of a job this method works. Okay, and so yeah, it's a lot of stop and go because you know, it's not trimmed, and so you're working with this excess fabric all at the same time. All right, so now that there's a little bit more space here, when I open it, you see it looks like it was trimmed. There's nothing wrong here, so my points meet up because it was pinned. Here, the point meets up, that looks like to be about an exact 1/4 inch. Right here as well too. Now, some of these are going to be easier to do than others, and we'll really be able to tell how good of a job we do once all the rows are ready to be sewn together. So now I just have to finish the rest of these, and this is not something that I can rush, so I'm really going to take my time with it. And to be honest, you can choose. Do you want to spend your time trimming, Or do you want to spend your time sewing? And as you sew, you just remember what's going on. I prefer to not have to trim lots of blocks. Most of the time, I don't trim anything to size. I also do that because I've noticed that when you're sewing blocks that are different, in this case, all of these blocks are exactly the same. They're all pinwheels. But when you have different blocks and you need them to match, and then within each block there's lots of different units, and so they all have different designs in them, it doesn't always work out. Like, I've lost points in things like stars and triangles because hold on, this is not wanting to nest. Okay, because I trimmed one block and didn't trim another, and then it just didn't work out. So, you know, just be mindful of what is in front of you, and also what is the purpose of your little quilt or your little project. The purpose of this one is just for fun for me. I'm not going to gift this to anybody. This is sort of like an experiment for me because it's not something that I've done before in the way that I am using my colors. So it's just for fun. And sometimes you make things just for fun. Now I can definitely tell with that one I just did, there was no shimmying at all that could save that point. So we'll have to see what I can do about that one later. But I'm about halfway done with these, and so far they've only had like one problem pair of blocks, and it was just one corner, so not too bad. right, these are done, which means I need to get my picture back out so that I can see where these are going to go. So here's my picture. And the good thing is that I made sure to keep my blocks together so I know that 4 is going to make a row. So this is the top row. I could work with the top row right now. Press these open so it's a little bit easier to iron later, even though I'm not sewing that seam right now. And I'm just going to see, okay, this one is my top left corner. This one is my blocks 3 and 4 in that row. And that is going this way. Okay. And that came out really good. How close can I get? Do you see? It's like a tad bit overlapping. It's really hard to see. And then this one, it came out perfect. Perfect. But it looks great. And I'm going to go ahead and just pin it right now. Take my time to do this. Okay. And then I'm going to look at the next 2 pairs. See which way these are facing. So this one goes here. And then this one. See, look at those points. Yay! They look good. They look good. This one goes here. Yep. I'm going to flip this to this side because these 2 are shorter and then this one here sticks out. So I always work on the shorter side. That just helps me. Pin. Okay. So row 1 is done. And I'm going to do the same thing for rows 2 through 4. I've got them all pinned, and after this seam, I have one more to complete the row, so that's pretty exciting. This would go by a lot faster if I did not have so many seams on a diagonal to nest, but I know it's going to look very nice when it's done. Now these need to be pinned, and I'm gonna go through the same process, exactly the same, except that when I'm done, I'm gonna press my seams open. That way I can show you my completed rows back at the table. The top 4 rows are sewn together. I did press them flat like I said that I would, and I wanted to show you the success that you could have when you take your time with the technique that I showed you. So for example, right here, there is excess fabric. Well, at this intersection, you can't tell. Right there, they meet up. So take your time if you choose not to trim. I promise it won't be so bad. And let's see what the finished size is gonna be. So I said it was gonna be about 16 inches, and this is at like 15 and a half. Very close. Now I need to put these where they belong. This looks like it goes here. This one looks like it goes right here. Then this one goes this way. And then this one goes here. I'm going to pin my rows together, and then I'm going to sew the bottom pairs just like I showed you before. So once I've got all of my rows done, I'll be back to show you how it all looks. All right, friends, I finished the top half of my quilt and it looks amazing. Like, wow, it is so unique. It is not what I expected it to be, but the placement of the colors really makes this quilt top, and I have the last 4 rows to finish. So I'm going to pin those up, and before I forget, I did find more background fabric because I had some that I bought more of as an accident, and I'm so glad that I did because I can use this to add a border and make it a standard pillowcase. Yay! So honestly, guys, I think I am in love with this little bonus project more so than the actual Pinwheel Cookie Quilt. I know, but look at this. How this turned out. It's amazing. And I think that honestly, it's the way that I placed all of my colors. So the faded look with the bright reds in the middle, and I knew that I didn't have a lot, and I was like, well, let me just disperse them because that's what I normally did. And this time I did something different, and I'm so glad because I don't have anything like this at all. I've never played with colors like these at all in this sort of fashion, and it is just beautiful. I am so glad that I did this. Now, I did want to show you the back because I pressed all of my seams open, and I did that because I knew that I was going to be doing a little bit of quilting on this, and I did not want to mess up my machine because I have a domestic machine. So here is a close-up of my seams on the back, and you can see that I have a lot of seams where there's extra fabric, and because I ate it up in the 1/4 inch seam and pretended it didn't exist at all, it did not impact the front of my quilt. So let's go back and look at the front of my quilt because it came out really good. I don't think the average quilter would be able to see that that's what I did. You might think like, oh, she definitely trimmed up those little blocks, but no, I didn't. I did not trim, and that saved me so much time. And speaking of time, so sort of a rough calculation, this took me about 5 hours to make, and that was over several nights, just stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. So yeah, totally worth it. I'm going to add the border to this so that I can put it on a pillow form that I have, and I think I even have enough to use this same fabric, possibly, hopefully, as a like a sleeve for the back. So I've got quite a bit of it. So I know for a fact that I have shown you how to make a pillowcase before, and I'm not going to show you how to do that again, but I will link that video. It's a little bit older in the description box below. So guys, if you want to make a bonus project, you don't have to make it into a pillow like me. I just, you know, if you're going to have a quilt, why not have a pillow to go with it, right? I mean, that's just what I think. But you could totally make this into a little wall hanging. It's the perfect size to just hang up on the wall. I mean, I have a lot right above me. I have 4, and then all of these over here. And I have plenty of more wall space to fill up. You could make this into a table runner if you wanted to use only some of these and not almost all of them like I did. You could make a little tote bag. So you have a lot of options to do with this, and depending on the fabrics, like the colors that you have even more options, because there's plenty of little one-day sewing projects like stockings or little bags that you could do with something like this. So I am always happy when I can use my cutaways and not waste any fabric. You guys know, if you watch my other playlist, I think it's called like my sewing room, that you know I like to keep my scraps and I organize them to the best of my ability. So I'm just really happy with this, and I hope that you learned something new. If you didn't, just leave me a comment below on any thoughts that you have. I would love to know, and until next time, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Please share my videos. I would really appreciate it, and I'll see you then. Bye.